Hello guys, and on today's show, Ipswich have taken control of the race for second. Southampton are in the FA Cup semi-finals and no team in the bottom half won on Easter Monday. Hello guys, welcome back to the Sportsman Untitled, brought to you by Betfred. I'm joined today by Ollie Mann and Gab Sutton, and we've got a bumper weekend to review, guys, after two games over the Easter weekend. I think we have to say, Gab, that Ipswich were probably the big winners in the race for second, weren't they, after they beat Birmingham, your team, 2-1, and we saw the other teams drop points. It does feel like, with two games in hand, they have taken charge of the race for second.
Yeah, I think Millwall looked very leggy at the weekend, losing 2-1 at home to Norwich City. Middlesbrough created tons of chances once again, and I think Ollie's got some numbers on this that show they're really creating chances and then just not quite putting them away. Pretty familiar story when it comes to Middlesbrough. And Ipswich do have that depth that Millwall don't have, the quality maybe that Middlesbrough don't have, and that's where you'd probably say they're favourites. I think the big positive for Kieran McKenna from Easter Monday's game is probably the performance of Casey McAteer, because that right-hand side's been a bit of a dilemma, hasn't it, for Ipswich Town this season, but McAteer put in, for my money, probably his best performance in a Town shirt, and I think that's a real positive, his link-up with George Hurst going into the run-in.
Yeah, they were good against Birmingham and did get over the line, but...
Bit of luck.
Yeah, we have to talk about that incident, don't we? The disallowed goal where the ball just didn't go out of play, did it, Ollie?
No, it just didn't go out, and I would say it wasn't particularly close.
It wasn't.
It just was nowhere near out of play. And so, but you need that bit of luck in the running. And sometimes you earn your own luck. We spend so much time talking about refereeing decisions and where the sort of point lies, but you've still got to take advantage of it. You've still got to make sure that that doesn't become the only deciding factor. They rode their luck in this one. They now are going to need that going forward. They've got more games than anybody else still to play. They've got them crammed into the smallest period of time. So yeah, maybe they'll say we deserved a bit of luck going into this run where it's going to be all on our legs and we've got to get ourselves over the line. They are being helped though by Middlesbrough. Gab referenced it before. I was looking back at, I think it's Middlesbrough's last 5 games. They've got 2 points, I think it is, in terms of the draws that they've picked up. But they just seem to be unable to score a goal. I think they've created 13 XG and scored, I think it's 4 goals, which is just ridiculous for a team of their quality. And you've got to be looking at their strikers. We've said all season, Tommy Conway's a fabulous footballer. He really is. He stretches the defence, gets in behind, but he's not your central number 9. David Strelec, for whatever reason, it's not clicking. He's not being able to take those chances. And that's really going to come back to punish them, because going back to Kim Hellberg's entire time in charge, there's been 2 runs now, which probably total 10 games where they've battered the opposition, created chance after chance, and just missed them repeatedly. And that is going to cost them promotion, ultimately. The reason Ipswich are in such a strong position today is that Boro just can't finish the dinner. And that is huge at this stage of a season. It's not just about Ipswich getting their own luck. The ball didn't go out. It's also the fact that Boro seem to be giving them as much luck as possible because they miss every chance they get.
You know, the other thing as well, Ollie, I think if this was like the first 5 games of the season where Middlesbrough had taken 2 points from 5 games, we could easily be sitting here and saying, well, that's okay, look at the performances. They've got plenty of time to put it right. Or even if it was in December and they're having this kind of run, I wouldn't be worried at all. It's because it's April.
Yeah.
You don't want to be wasteful in front of goal in April because it's costing them time after time after time. And Ipswich haven't been in unbelievable form because they've drawn a few games as well, but Ipswich have been able to win a lot more games recently because of the fact that they've got Hurst and Azon and other players, Jack Clark as well, and I think Middlesbrough, in terms of those difference makers, whether it's the centre forward or whether it's that withdrawn forward that can create, I mean, Whittaker's out at the moment, which maybe doesn't help. They're missing that clinical edge in the final third, and that could cost them.
We are at the stage of the season where, and we've sat down so many times this season, talked about performances, Gab. They don't matter. They don't matter one bit. Just now, if you win a game 1-0 and you've been absolutely bad all game, that's far better than what Middlesbrough are doing right now. 1 point on Ipswich. Obviously, all 3 teams are on 72 points, Ollie, but their fixtures are still quite tough. And by the way, later in the week, we're going to do an Old Farm derby, Norwich versus Ipswich preview for Sportsman Untitled Extra, so stay tuned for that one. Norwich up next, Southampton and Boro still to play. There's a world where those 2 games in hand fade away quite quickly.
There is, but of course, the 2 games in hand are nice to haves. because they've still got the advantage. They are sat in second as it stands with 2 games in hand. So even if they don't win them, they're still second. The big risk for me with Ipswich is having more games than everybody else. I think they've still got 7 to play, crammed into, is it 4 weeks? And so that is a lot of football. Now, they've probably got the deepest squad in the division in terms of the quality. You know, we've said it all year long. When are Ipswich going to click? When are they going to get into second gear? The reason we keep talking about that is that their squad is deeper, stronger, better than pretty much anybody else's in the division. So if anybody can handle 7 games in 4 weeks, they can. But that is the one risk that stumps them, because yes, there's difficult games, but there's the impact that they have on the run on. You never get time to recover. There's no break. There's no, we take a rest this week and see what happens. It's just constant go, go, go. Does the fatigue ultimately cost them? They're in a very strong position. And I still back them to get over the line, even if they don't take max points. They can afford to lose to Norwich, lose to Southampton, and it still be in their hands. And that's massive.
Yeah, it's absolutely massive. I think emotionally as well, they seem the most stable, and maybe that's the depth. They've done it before. I think the most impressive thing with Coventry, and we'll come on to them in a bit, is being this focus and laser focus to go and win the title. Ipswich haven't had that to the same level. I feel like potentially with Boro and Millwall as well, as we saw on Monday, I don't know if the emotions of them being there, Gab, are affecting performances slightly, especially when we look at Middlesbrough and the players lying on the floor, head in hands at Swansea at the weekend.
Is it psychological, or is it... I mean, there's possibly something from Millwall's point of view. I look at Millwall's, don't have an enormous squad. They've got big players, but they don't have the backup in the same way. Ipswich have play with one centre forward, and it's Azon or George Hurst, and they have similar levels of ability.
Philogene and Jack Clark and McAteer.
Perfect example. Whereas I think with Millwall, you've got Femi Aziz, and he's pretty much your key man. And I think that Millwall, with that reliance, it's maybe not a huge surprise that they went and put in this huge performance at Middlesbrough on Good Friday, and then they come to play Norwich on the Monday and they're a bit zonked. And I think that that's possibly the factor. When it comes to Middlesbrough, is it psychological? There might be a degree of that, a degree of the pressure and the intensity maybe getting on top of them at key moments. But I think what's important to remember is I don't think it's performances. I don't see a Middlesbrough team that's so encapsulated by the nerves that they're not playing or doing the right things or doing most of the stuff they do when they're on that winning run.
And they don't have Hayden Hackney. That's
of course,
massive point.
But I don't think Middlesbrough's performances have necessarily changed from when they were on this brilliant run. It's just that they're not finishing the chances.
You know what, though? I think that does come down to pressure. I think that's up here. It's not about the performance, the quality in the legs, the quality in terms of we've got the ball, we can create chances, we can get ourselves driving forward. It's quality in the key moments. For Sol Bryn, he's had a sticky few games, shall we say, in terms of his performances in goal. Is that pressure on his shoulders? Is he feeling it? Is he getting the nerves, which is then affecting his game? In front of goal, they're the big moments. It's easy, and I'm obviously not very good at football, but it's easy to say, oh, look how brilliant we are from the edge of their box to the edge of our box. We're the best team in the league. We're easy to play against. We can play it forward. But the pressure comes when you are in your box and you're in theirs. And that's where it's hitting Middlesbrough right now. They can't find the consistency at either side. And I think that does come down to pressure. I think it comes down to, have you got the presence of mind to take a second, find the finish, make that last block, make the save? It comes down to big pressure moments and whether or not you can sustain it. Obviously, I've seen it with United a lot in recent years, where we sometimes have teams who, we said it before, you put Billy Sharp in this, prime Billy Sharp, probably not the 40-year-old we've got today, and they look better because they've got somebody who knows how to handle the big moment, take a breath, put it in the back of the net. Whereas what they've got right now is players who haven't gone through this before, experiencing it for the first time, and it's clearly getting on top of them in the big pressure moments when it counts.
I think it's also, we look back at the big Coventry versus Middlesbrough game at the end of January, where Middlesbrough had won 6 in a row and were top of the league. Coventry won a terrible run and put in an amazing performance. And obviously you can draw that in hindsight and be like, Coventry have won 8 out of 10 since then and gone on to win the league. Middlesbrough have really, really struggled.
You went early on winning the league there, Si. You're confident, aren't you?
I have to be. I did go a little bit early. Might regret that. Delete that bit. But Middlesbrough basically, from that point, won twice, I think, in the same period. And you look at that and you just think that was absolutely massive, which is, again, the point on psychology.
It's a confidence killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They thought they could go 5 points clear of Coventry that night.
Middlesbrough win that night, they probably win the league.
Yeah.
Well, the game before that, they came to Bramall Lane. They were the best team I've seen at Bramall Lane in 18 months. They were fantastic, playing on a wave of confidence, driving themselves forward. It takes one knock, and that's where you see the pressure of a promotion race. It's one slip up. United did it last season, probably the exact same weekend, I think it was. We slipped up once, and that was it. We were gone. We lost 3 in a row, and our chances of automatic promotion were up in flames. It's happening to Boro because, again, it took one moment to remind them they're not invincible, and that can take you down.
Do you think, though, and this is about Boro and potentially Millwall as well, maybe even Ipswich, we saw a Sunderland team who fell out of the automatic promotion race and then won the playoffs last season. However, I think the difference is here, that second place is still well up for grabs for all of these teams. We knew Sunderland weren't going to finish in the top 2 from...
Well, from now onwards, they just stopped playing, didn't they?
They lost about 6 games in a row, didn't they? And you're right. And then they went and won the playoffs. I don't know if those teams will look at that and think there's still a chance here and they can get promoted via the playoffs and Middlesbrough will be massive contenders. Or if they're still a bit too close to now focus on the playoffs.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's a tough one.
They've got to chase automatic promotion. And once you chase automatic promotion, you are adding miles into your legs. Yeah. You are taking away some of that resilience. You're
speaking from experience here, Ollie.
I mean, you said, think about Sunderland last year, and I immediately just to camera, hello, darkness, my old friend.
That's what I did as well.
It's just pain and suffering, but you at least get to recover it this season. Yeah. I think chasing the high of wanting to be second is just such an emotional drain as you're on that rush, and it can massively impact your chances in the playoffs. Now, look, whichever of these teams finish in the playoffs, they are the best teams in the playoffs. They will go in as the favourites, but the more you chase second in a losing attempt, the more that takes out of your legs, and it makes it so much harder to go again for those final 3 games and really push yourself over the line.
We've got so much to talk about today. I do want to talk about Millwall losing at home to Norwich as well, because at half-time in the Middlesbrough-Millwall game, Middlesbrough are absolutely fine. I don't think Millwall had barely been at the half. They were 1-0 up. Millwall come back and win that game. Then they go and lose at home to Norwich. But I don't think this is that big a deal for Millwall in terms of the grand scheme of things, because I think Norwich are one of the top 2, 3, 4 teams in the league right now, Gab. They're just so good.
I know. I feel like if there was almost just 2 or 3 more games of the season, I would think Norwich have got a real shot at getting into the top 6. I just think that they're running out of games. Yeah. And that's where I would maybe put them a bit out of it. But
since Philippe Clement came in, by the way, mate, I did a bit of research here. Cov. Since the day he was appointed, Cov have got 50 points, Ipswich 49, Norwich 49. They're only 6 points off. Wrexham, Southampton tonight. It does just feel that they might run out of games.
I think there's so much excitement, though, for Norwich City and what they can do and how so many of those players have improved. I look at Ostrich Vartau, who they signed when they were 18, I think, in 2024, and he looks like a real exciting player who got a bit of experience under his belt now. I think he could be amazing next season. You've got, Mo Toure, edit that bit out.
Put your teeth in, go again.
Anyway, they've got Shortau, they've got players like Pelle Mutson, who I'm a huge fan of. Ali Ahmed as well on the left wing, that's what I was thinking of. So really exciting.
I see Norwich as potentially the Coventry of last season, this season, where Coventry were one of the best teams in the league from January when Lampard got going, won a lot of games, went up from 17th and made it to the playoffs, didn't win the playoffs. This season had such a quick start to the season, they built a lead. Yeah. And I'm just like, if I'm a Norwich fan, I'm licking my lips at this season and the end of this season and mainly next season, Ollie.
I agree, yeah. This season, it's come to, like we say, maybe even 3 games too late. Give them an extra 3 games and
but what if it hasn't?
Well, it takes a big sort of drop off, doesn't it? I mean, yes, they might catch Hull. But other than that, you've got to really look at where they can get in terms of the points, in terms of taking things forward. It's next season for me where they've got to be so excited because the consistency level, the rate of improvement that's happened since Clement came into the club is ridiculous. And I see no reason why they wouldn't build on that this summer. They've got a little bit of opportunity to regroup, maybe plug a couple of gaps if they see anything they need to do in the summer, but mainly keep this squad together and go again because they just look like one of the best teams in the league, sustained for a long, long time now. So I see no reason why they shouldn't be getting a little bit excited for what they could do next season, albeit in a division that looks very tough on paper when you see the sort of quality of the teams coming down.
Yeah, third in the form table over the last 6 games and third in the form table since Clement got...
Which is mad.
And remember, Liam Manning saying, nothing will change if you sack me, which on reflection... Liam, that's not gone well for you, mate, has it? Hull, by the way, we should talk about Hull, your favourite team. 0-0 with Coventry this weekend. But maybe we should start with Coventry. 4 points gap away from a return to the Premier League. With their goal difference, it looks like a win over Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday will pretty much take them there. And this recent run has just allowed them to charge towards the title. Been really laser focused and impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. A solid away point for Coventry. And it's something that they maybe weren't able to grind out during that sort of winter period when they looked a little bit more vulnerable. And I think they've acquired that skill. We can talk about the impact of Liam Kitching and some of the brave defending that he did at Hull, and I think that's one of the that solidity I think is going to take Coventry over the line. But also Frank Onyeka, I think he's just... I've mentioned him on this podcast before, but I don't think you can overstate the impact that he's had, both going forward, but also in that defensive side, and his partnership with Matt Grimes is quite something.
Yeah, absolutely. He's brought the best out of Grimes. He's sorted everything. It's the January signing we needed. I've said it many times. I think he was on 88% win ratio since he came into the club, which is just ridiculous. That might have gone down a bit since the whole game. Ollie, I'll throw to you on Hull. I thought they could have gone for it a little bit more at the end of that Cov game, because if they'd have won, they'd only been 2 points behind second. I look at them now and think they are a very good team, and if they make it to the playoffs, they will be contenders.
Yeah.
And we can praise them massively. But I look at the teams beneath them. I look at Southampton, who can't stop winning. Wrexham, and that is a massive game tonight, by the way. We obviously don't know the result of that. Derby, and even maybe Norwich. They're 4 points off second, but they are also looking over their shoulder. So maybe they thought it's a decent point, we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about weighing risk and reward, isn't it? How much does the 1 point give you that, you know, you can't afford to lose it? I personally thought, again, similar to you, they maybe could have had a go. Maybe you go, you know what, let's win it. That really gives us a massive buffer. It puts the pressure onto Southampton, who have got so much to play for in the next few weeks, that you can really sort of stabilise and force them to almost need to be perfect. But there is also a question for me on Hull, because they have got some really impressive performances. They, in moments, look like one of the best teams in the league. But looking back over the 6-game form table, I think they're 14th. They are below Southampton, who are one of the top teams in the division over that same form table. Wrexham, who I think have picked up 3 more points in the same period of time. So that, for me, is the question mark. And I can understand why they then didn't want to gamble. When you're not in the best form, you're not picking up consistent results, you kind of go, okay, let's settle for what we've got. We're playing the best team in the division. They're going to go on and win the league. Let's take our point, celebrate it, be the only team, or one of only 2 teams who have stopped Coventry this season, and then let's look to push on from there. It's a real... They deserve so much credit. Hull should take so much from this season for how impressive they've been. And like I say, in moments, I think particularly in terms of its quick counters, it's how fast they can turn defence into attack, they look incredible. And they are such a threat that if they're in the playoffs, nobody will want to play against that, because you can have all the pressure, you can have all the ball, but you know they can hurt you in moments. And that is so crucial when it comes to the playoffs. Look at last season's playoff final, for instance. United played Sunderland. You would say for 60 minutes, United were comfortably the better team, but the moments are what get you promoted, and Sunderland had those big moments. Hull, we know, have got big moments in them. It's just whether or not they can make sure they're still in the playoffs in 5 games' time, because there are teams breathing down their neck who just have more consistency right now, and Hull need to find that for 5 more games to sustain where they've been all season. Everybody knows what I'm going to say. I think they'll just miss out, but they have deserved so much credit for everything that they've done.
We're going to do our top 6 predictions very, very shortly, so hold your horses on that. I think it's most fast breaks, most counter-attack goals, and the bodies they get in the box is amazing. Liam Miller had a fantastic game against Coventry as well. What a talent he is. We should also, Gab, quickly talk about Derby beating Stoke 2-0, because they continue their push for a top 6 finish. John Eustace continues to impress, but more frustration for Stoke fans as well. 27 points from their last 26 Championship games. Yeah,
interesting to hear Mark Robbins' comments about Stoke City. He was quite quite hard in terms of on his players, and I do wonder if he might come to regret that, because if some of those players stay next season, he's going to need to motivate them and say, I believe in you, having sort of slagged them off. So it's a bit of a challenging one that for Mark Robinson. I think he'll be hoping for, possibly could be looking at another overhaul at Stoke City. With regards to Derby, what I was quite intrigued by was David Ozo starting in midfield alongside Lewis Travis. And I think that gives them better midfield balance, because they've previously had that sort of approach of just loading the squad, like 4 forwards on the pitch, and Bobby Clark starting a bit deeper. I actually like Clark in the 10 and having 3 forwards on the pitch, because I think it helps in terms of the midfield balance. And I think David Ozo makes a big difference in that regard.
They were good at the CBS as well on Friday night, obviously losing 3-2. They are going to be close, but it's almost like the traffic, isn't it? It's
the traffic, but how huge is that injury going to be as well? I think we've seen today that Ajimang is going to be out for the season and potentially a long time through next season as well. He's such an important player. He's such a talent. He looks fantastic. There is traffic in their way. We've talked about how fantastic the form Southampton are on is at the minute. We've just talked about Hull and Wrexham, 2 teams who have got the points advantage, who don't need to be perfect to the end of the season to stay above Derby. So it's whether or not others drop out while they keep their great run going. I think it'll be just too much to ask from them, particularly with that injury. But they look a great team at the minute, don't they? They've done so much better than we thought.
Yeah.
Do we think, gents, we're looking at 2 from Hull, Wrexham and Southampton then at the moment?
Yes, that's where I'm leaning.
It's so hard, isn't
Simon wants Norwich.
I do want Norwich in there, but if Norwich win all of their remaining games, that's 15 points, and that takes them to 73.
I think the season's running out for Norwich myself.
I think they'll have to win all of them, and they're playing Ipswich on Saturday. I think they might be very close. I think you are probably right, and I think I would back. In fact, we do need to congratulate Southampton.
Beating
Arsenal
deservedly, not just beating Arsenal, deservedly beating the team who are going to go on and win the Premier League. That is so impressive from Southampton. They were so good, and they deserve so much credit for that. Doing just huge respect for the Championship as well, because that was a hell of a performance.
And Leo Cienza getting headlines, and Premier League fans loving watching him as well. I will say a word of warning though, having watched a team capitulate after losing an FA Cup semi-final and kind of write off their season. This FA Cup semi-final comes with 2 games, I think, after it. But we talk about Ipswich fixture congestion, Gab, and Southampton has the same thing to deal with, don't they? So can they just keep on beating everyone in their path, or will it catch up with them?
I think the feel-good factor of being on that run to the FA Cup semi-final is a trade-off, because you do play more games, and they've got a lot of catching up to do as it is. They've only played 39. But I think the confidence that you get from saying we've beaten the potential champions of England,
huge.
I think that's huge. And I think sometimes, we think of physical and mental in football as like 2 completely different categories, but I think they can kind of overlap, because I think when you're winning, it gives you more energy, doesn't it? Whereas if you've got play loads of games and you're losing, obviously, the physical can weigh you down. So I actually see it as a positive thing that Southampton are on this run, and I think they can generate a lot of confidence from that.
Right, it's time to put our necks on the line, lads, then, and predict the top 6 in order. Do you want me to go first?
Go on.
I'll kick us off. Obviously, Coventry are going to win the league.
Yes.
Ipswich second, I think, feeling more confident about that.
Yep.
I think Millwall will get 3rd, Middlesbrough 4th, Southampton 5th, and Wrexham 6th. And Hull will miss out on goal difference on the final day.
I agree. I have exactly the same as my top 6. I think Coventry have done enough now. This run has been incredible. And I think the positive feeling they'll get, all but promoted if they beat Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday. If they don't, I think that would be one of the funniest scenarios of the season. If Wednesday can get their first win away at the CBS on Saturday, that would be... Even I will really enjoy that. That'd be amazing. But I don't see it happening. So Coventry promoted at the weekend and then go on a fantastic run. I think then Ipswich, with the position they've got themselves into, they are the most likely finishing second. I back Millwall's resilience over Middlesbrough's, which gives you 3rd and 4th. And it's all about whether or not Southampton can maintain the run. I'm going to back them too. I would agree. Southampton, Wrexham, Hull, because looking at that recent 6-game form, it has them in the bottom half. There is a real question mark about whether or not they're going to go again to the end of this season. But what I will say is, if they're in the playoffs, I think they're a real contender.
I would actually, if we agree that it's kind of 2 from 3 for the playoffs, I would actually
feels harsh on Derby, doesn't it?
It does, but
Derby in that?
Southampton have got. Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But Southampton have got 2 games in hand on them.
Yeah, you are.
And Wrexham have got 1, and so we're talking. Yes, it's 1 point that could easily be 4 by the time, we're all on the same games.
Sure.
And there's a lot of drop-off needed from those other clubs, isn't it?
So let's 2 from 4 for Simon's sake. Then I like to humour him.
Five.
It's 2 from 5 for Simon's sake. He wants Norwich in there.
Come on, Norwich.
I'm drawing the line there. I'm putting my foot down. No, I would actually make Southampton favourites, even though they're the lowest of the 3. That would be so I think it's probably possibly going to end up being Hull or Wrexham, and I think I'm inclined to agree with the gents. I think it might be Hull dropping out.
Unanimous.
My agenda has just spread across the land.
Yeah.
Unanimous stuff there, lads. We will be doing our bottom 3 predictions shortly as well, and we need to turn our attention to the bottom of the Championship because nobody in the bottom half won on Easter Monday.
Well, Bristol City did start the day in the bottom half when they turned up.
And Roy Hodgson deserves
So teams in the bottom half
credit.
did win. They're just
Fair
not
enough.
there anymore.
Right. Well, they all drew at the bottom in the big 6 playing each other at the bottom. And we have to start with Sheffield Wednesday 1, Leicester 1. Leicester rescuing a point at Hillsborough. And a really poor performance again in terms of not getting the result. Pierce Charles was incredible though in goal.
Yeah, I think Pierce Charles is definitely going to be in demand. It reminds me a bit of Victor Johansson at Rotherham a couple of seasons back in terms of, one of the best goalkeepers in the league, playing for, by far the worst team in the league. But I think with Leicester, I think whoever takes charge of Leicester for next season has got to take a much harder line stance on the big egos in the camp, because I think a lot of these players have disrespected the club. They've got a sort of slightly flaky attitude where they'll turn up when they feel like it, and they'll cause issues with managers, and managers have got sacked because of them. Particularly Harry Winks. I think not just Harry, but I think there's others. I think that what the club have got to do is they've got to get an alignment where the head coach or the manager is the one that has some authority, and you've got to set a code of conduct where you've got to live by this code of conduct, or you're out on your ear and you're training with the resis. And I think that's what Leicester need to. Yeah, I know.
I really enjoyed the resis.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm going a bit
Get in with the resis, guys.
Going a bit working class.
I also think that. And this is going to be harsh. Patson Daka has been rubbish and was really bad in this game, and he is not the man to lead the line in a relegation battle. And I just have worries about his quality and the quality of a lot of those players in the squad who, as you say, I think have bigger inflated egos than their performances suggest. They are, the 3rd worst team in the Championship this season as we speak?
Yeah.
And they've done nothing to show they're better than that. Abdul Fatah, we spoke about in the summer, is one of the best players in the league. Where is he?
I think when Gary Rowett, it's slightly damned if you do and damned if you don't, because I remember Gary Rowett speaking about his time at Stoke, where he took quite a hardline stance against players. I think there was something to do with a pre-season tour and players, a player wanting to stay in Germany or something like that, rather than fly back with the team, and he didn't notify the management in advance. And Gary Rowett took a hardline stance against that, and then that sort of backfired on him at Stoke. And so I think he's kind of learnt from that and taken a softer approach with that in order to find a working relationship with that group of players, which I can kind of understand, but then maybe has that created challenges in terms of keeping the standards at a certain level. And I think it's a really difficult job for managers now. So,
especially going into Leicester, let's be honest, we're talking about a club, you referenced Patson Daka there. He's a multi-million-pound signing that came in with quite a big reputation, having scored goals abroad. And so you're then talking about not just the egos that you've got to manage. Who do you ostracise? Because when you actually look at this Leicester squad, it's so unbalanced. So which players do you ostracise and say, no, you're in with a resis, and you don't know where you're going to go from there? And who do you build around to say, you're going to be my standard bearer? Because it feels to me as though it's a club who don't have that standard bearer, who you build around and you go, right, that's the player we're betting the farm on, who's going to build everybody else up. You've got to try and get everybody involved. You can't ostracise Fatawu because he might win you the points you need to stay up.
It's Jordan James,
really
he was
difficult.
Injured, obviously, so he's probably been their standout. And what a goal from Ayu, by the way. I know
it's
he's an absolutely fantastic
goal.
equaliser. We should also look at Portsmouth 2, Oxford 2, because this was maybe the game of the weekend for me in terms of entertainment, Ollie. Massive equaliser of 10-man Pompey. But I want to talk about the red card first of all. Ogilvy getting sent off, yes or no for you?
Yes, but Spencer should also have been sent off. That's the trade-off, isn't it? I think both teams should have probably ended this game with 10 men, and therefore maybe you feel less hard done to if you feel as though you at least get the other decision. And so I think there's a rightful reason for Portsmouth to maybe think, come on.
I'm not sure on it, I'm still 50-50. I don't know if it was the way he was sent off as well. It wasn't an instant red card. There was a bit of a pause. There was an argument, and then he just went off. And it's such a big decision, Gab, at this point of the game. Portsmouth, I think, were 1-0 up as well when this happened, when the red card happened. I might be wrong on that.
Yes.
And then it just turns the tide of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Portsmouth, you've got to credit them for coming back in the last few minutes. I like Milanic Ali and his sort of involvement in that equaliser. And one sort of quirk I want to point out is Portsmouth have got the ultimate hipster signing, which is a Paraguayan on loan from Santos in Gustavo Caballero. And he was one of their top performers in the game. And it shows that they're willing to look further afield in their recruitment under Richard Hughes, and they've got quite an interesting sort of recruitment strategy. And he's obviously playing for his place in the Paraguay squad at the World Cup, of course. So hopefully for them, Gustavo Caballero can come into form at the business end.
They're only a point above the relegation zone, though, Portsmouth, and you're worried about them, Ollie, aren't you?
I'm really worried about them because of the fixtures they've got remaining. When you look at that sort of final run to the end of the season, they've still got to play Coventry, they've still got to play Middlesbrough, I think they've still got to play Ipswich.
Yeah.
That is a horror run of fixtures. The other games are all also against their contenders. I think they've got Leicester. Like, there is no game that they can turn up to against somebody on a beach where you're thinking, oh, easy. It's hard. Every game is max effort from both teams. It's going to be so tense.
It means that you don't have those, because they don't have those nice mid-table games against a Stoke or a Preston.
They don't get to play against United, which would be a guaranteed 3 points these days.
Exactly. So it does mean that when they play Leicester, it's not a draw wouldn't be the end of the world. It's like they've got to win, and that's the challenge for Portsmouth. I think I would look at Portsmouth and question, have they had enough in terms of the attacking end of the pitch? Because Colby Bishop was fantastic for them last season, but he's not repeated the trick this year, and that's where they've come a cropper, I think.
Blackburn 0, West Brom 0 was kind of a shake hands on a draw type of game, and I know they're still in a bit of danger, but it does look like there's a little bit of a gap now emerging, especially for West Bromwich Albion. Blackburn doing pretty well under Michael O'Neill recently in terms of picking up points. West Brom 4 points clear. It feels like that's a decent gap at this stage of the season, which kind of brings us on to our bottom three predictions. I think we should move on to them, because are we saying that Blackburn and West Brom are both going to survive, and what's the total they need? And who are you looking at? I mean, you're looking at Portsmouth, I believe.
I am, yeah. It's a really, really tricky one, because Blackburn have been the team that I've always gone, are they? And they've always done just enough. Keep the heads above water constantly, week after week, just do enough to keep your head above water. And at this stage of the season, is it a 6-point gap they've got? That is massive. Yeah. They probably only need, 3 points?
1 defeat in 5.
1 defeat in 5. 3 more points and they will probably go, that's it. We've got to 50 and that is enough for us this season. And so when you're trying to then predict your bottom 3, I think it's 3. I think it's 2 from 3. I think it's Portsmouth, Leicester and Oxford. And you're picking from those. If I'm predicting, I'm going to... it's impossible, because almost like your head says... Leicester have got so much quality. How are they not going to get out of this? But then you watch them play and you go, oh, that's how they're not going to get out of this, because they play like this every week.
They do have a better goal difference than any other team down there.
They have a better goal difference. Obviously, they did have an extra 6 points. Yeah. So, on the pitch, they would be level with Blackburn.
That's not very good, though, is it?
It's not good. It's not fantastic. But, we've just praised how Blackburn have kept their heads above water, kept themselves out of danger. I'm going to let I don't even know if it's my head. I'm going to let something roll my heart, and I'm going to go with Oxford and Portsmouth, the two that end up on the wrong side of the line.
Gab.
I hate to be boring, but I think I'm in agreement with Ollie. I really like what Mike Dodds and Matt Bloomfield have done at Oxford. And I think Portsmouth have been producing some competitive performances, but I think that neither of them quite have enough top-end quality, and I think that that's going to ultimately dictate it. When you think Portsmouth and Oxford are both playing well at the moment, and both are winless in 4. And I think that's the worst possible stage to do that. Now, to be fair, Leicester, that's also true of Leicester. But I think that Leicester are just about going to have enough on the pitch. And I think they finished 21st.
Although Oxford will be disappointed not to beat Portsmouth this weekend, I do think they've shown the best improvement.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to back them to get out of it. I don't think Leicester deserve to stay up.
No, they don't.
If I'm being honest, I would like to see them get relegated. So I'm predicting Leicester to get relegated along with Portsmouth. I think you're probably going to be right on it.
I think it's the fixture list for Portsmouth, and then you're doing a coin flip in your head about whether or not, do you think the underlying quality gets Leicester out of it, or do you think the team spirit, the attitude, the improvement of Oxford is enough?
It's been 41 games of no quality for Leicester, hasn't it?
It has.
So that's where I'm landing on it. We should also mention, before we finish, lads, we'll do a few previews, but Gab, we will have a new team in the Championship next season.
Yes.
Lincoln City have run away with League One. Ooh, what a season
Lincoln City. Ba-da-ba-da-da. Shout out to the 617 Squadron. No, you don't know what that means.
No, mate, Gab had just had an incident. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, fantastic achievement. I think they've got a brilliant owner, Lincoln City, in Clive Nates. And I think that he's someone who's very trusting. He lets the best people sort of get out. Football people make the best decisions. They sort of decentralise the power at the football club, which I think is really good. They've got a fantastic director of football in Jez George. Mark Tracy, who's now at Luton, did some great work sort of building that squad up. Now they've got Joe Hutchinson, who's fantastic on recruitment. And then they've got a brilliant coaching team in Michael Scabala, Tom Shaw and Chris Cohen, who just complement one another's strengths perfectly. So Scabala is a really good tactical coach, and then he's got other people who are really strong on the interpersonal side, and they complement one another so well.
It's as well really impressive, isn't it, how that patience with Scabala last season, when they really did struggle. You know, they had high expectations, maybe wanting to be a playoff team, dropped off and didn't quite meet the expectations, and there were so many fans out there who really didn't think Scabala was the man to take them forward coming into this season. There was a massive debate there over the summer. Do you go with patience and continuity, or do you flip the switch, change and go for somebody who you think might be more likely? How impressive is it as well, that patience that the board showed to say, you know what, we're building something here, let Scabala go again and look at what it's brought.
I think in football now, managers definitely need a lot more time than they're given. And so there was a period in the middle of last season where Lincoln City were out of form, but they'd lost their best 4 players from last season. Yeah. So they sort of need a bit of an adjustment period, and then they've gone on to do it. They finished last season really strongly. But I think their recruitment's just been unbelievable in terms of the value they can find.
I think they've got the 6th lowest budget in the whole EFL or something.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, the achievement.
But I think the fact that they've got such good people on recruitment kind of accounts for a lot of that as well. So the structure is fantastic. They've also got a really clear playing identity. They're an excellent out-possession pressing side, and they can cut teams open in transition. I think Rob Street leads the line really well. They've got Jack Moylan, who's a really exciting talent who they got from across the waters. Ben Ice as well, used to be at Reading. He's very selfless forward as well. Ivan Verfamiliev, sorry, I've buggered up the pronunciation, but he's brilliant in midfield as well. Tom Hamer as well, used to be a right back. They've converted him into a centre half, and he's done so well. So alongside Sonny Bradley, George. I'm going to go through the whole left. I'm going to go through the tea lady, the kit man.
The last one though, Gab. No, good about Ryan O'Neill.
Oh, what a talent!
I thought we'd got through the whole chat without you mentioning a Sheffield United player.
No, Ryan O'Neill.
He's got to be in the team next season, Ollie, in the squad certainly, because he's got a bit of explosivity about him, but he's also good in tight areas, and he's got a great, as you mentioned off air earlier, he's got a great physicality about him. So yeah, Ryan O'Neill's one to watch for the Blades.
We cannot wait to see them in the Championship next season. Let's do a couple of quick score predictions for the upcoming weekend's games, starting with Friday night, West Brom versus Millwall. Can Millwall get back to winning ways, Ollie?
Yes, I think they can. I think there's a consistency about Millwall, that they don't get too high after the highs and they don't get too low after their lows. They seem to be a team who can turn it around. I'm going to back Millwall to go and win this one 1-0. A relay, what I'm going to call your standard Millwall performance, and a Josh Coburn winner.
I'm going to go for a 2-1 Millwall win, which would actually put West Brom in a little bit of trouble again. Gab, how do you see this one?
I think West Brom might win. I'm going to say 1-0 to the Baggies.
Oh, a turn up for the books. Boro versus Portsmouth is our next game, which again has implications at both ends of the table. Can Boro end their winless run? I think they probably will. I think it's a kind fixture.
Yep.
I'm going to go for a 2-0 Boro win and a bit of a breath of relief. Fresh air?
Something like that.
Sigh of relief.
There
Thank you,
you go.
producer Seb. Go on, Cap. Take over.
This is the kind of game Middlesbrough have struggled to win. And speaking to Borough fans, it's not that they've played badly in those kind of games. They've actually played well against the bottom teams at home, but they've struggled to find that edge in front of goal. I think it's going to be 0-0. I think Portsmouth get a point.
Wow. Ollie.
Not for me. I've just bigged up how difficult Portsmouth's results are. I've said that's why they're going to go down. Imagine if I then went, but they'll win them all. Yeah, for me, I think Borough's bad luck in front of goal doesn't last forever. I'm going to back 3-0. I really think it's going to click for them at some point.
And we finish by looking at Birmingham versus Wrexham, the big glitz and glamour American derby that Sky will be loving.
Hey, y'all.
Birmingham, Gab, not great lately. Chris Davis going under more pressure. Can he get back to winning ways?
I'm staunchly pro Chris Davis. I think he's helped change the mentality of this football club. I think that he's been let down a little bit by poor recruitment. So we've spoken about how having a good recruitment process can outweigh a limited budget. I think we have a bad recruitment process that has somewhat outweighed having a big budget. And actually, I think we need a bit more stability in the summer because I think we tried to jump too many steps in the summer, and actually would have been better off if we stuck with the title-winning squad in large. And I think we tried to upgrade the squad, and I think it created a sort of almost like a rebuild, if you like. And I don't think that's helped us. I think we need a new director of football or something along those lines in the summer. So yeah, I think Chris Davis is the one we need to stick with. I think we need to give him a better support network in order to challenge next season.
Score prediction, Ollie.
2-1 Wrexham.
I'm going for a 1-1 draw. Gab?
I am going to go. I'll agree with you on a 1-1.
Excellent stuff. We will be back later in the week with the Sportsman Untitled Extra, where we'll do a deep dive into Norwich versus Ipswich. Can't wait for that one. And next week, we'll be back with the full show. I'll be with Benjamin Bloom and Chris Chapman, a Millwall fan. Can't wait to hear his views. Thank you very much for watching. Get your thoughts in the comments down below as usual. Like and subscribe while you're there, and we'll see you later in the week.